In this video, we'll be hunting a box of nickels. We'll be looking for anything older than 1960, including war nickels, buffaloes, or anything older. We'll also be looking for any proofs, foreigns, heirs varieties, or any other cool things we can find. And this box actually does have 4 enders. First one right here, we have an obverse-facing Canadian nickel. And then right here we have a 1952, right after a 1955, and then a little later a 1957. So hopefully all those enders are a good sign for the box. So let's start the hunt, and I'll bring you in when we have our first find. First roll, and we already have the first find of the box, and it's from the 50s, and it is a 1957, minted in Denver. Next roll, and we have another find from the 50s, and this one's a year I don't see too much, a 1951, out of Philly. Once again, next roll, and we've had a 50s nickel every roll so far, and this time it is a 1959 Denver. Roll 8, and we have our first nickel from the 40s, and it is a 1940 from Philly. Next roll, roll number 9, and it's pretty hard to tell, but flip this coin over. That's a 2003 S proof. It's in really beat up shape, has no proof finish left, has like a stain on it too. But either way, don't find proof nickels too often. Still a good find, even though it's in rough shape. Roll number 11, and we have another 40s nickel, and this one is a 1946 from Philly. Roll 14, another nickel from the 40s, and this one is a 1941 Philadelphia. Just opened roll number 15 and laid out the roll, and I see this thing. I don't know what it's going to be. It's really thin. It's a really thin washer. I recently got my first washer in a roll. It was a lot thicker than this one. This one's paper thin. I can even bend it. It feels like it's plastic even. That is really weird. Doubt I paid anything for it since it's so thin. I think it's actually made of plastic. That's a really weird and interesting find. Roll 16. Roll after that washer. Laid out the roll. In the back, one away from being an ender. That's a silver war nickel with the Philadelphia mint mark. Great to see a silver in the box, and this one is a 1943. Has a little bit of gunk on it, it's a little beat up, but still, any silver nickel is a great find. Same roll as that war nickel, and we have another one from the 50s, and it's another 1959 Denver. Next roll, and I knew the ender looked old by the reavers, and it did turn out to be old, and it was a 1947, minted in Philly. Roll 18, and we have yet another 1959 Denver. Roll 19 was our Canadian ender. Just opened the roll to find out that it's absolutely beat up on the edges. Looks like it was in a machine or something. It looks pretty bad, but it is a 1982. Roll 22, and we have another 40s find, and this one is a 1948 Denver. Roll 30, and we have another find from the 50s, and this one is a 1957 from Philly. Roll 31, and we just got the first 30s nickel of the hunt. And of course, it's a 1939 out of Philly. Even though there's some damage, I already looked, it's not the DDR, but still, 30s nickel is a good find. Roll 35, and we have another nickel from the 50s, and this one is another 1955 Denver. Roll 37, and we have another 50s find, and this one is a 1952, minted in Denver. And the next 2 rolls both have enders from the 50s, so we'll bring you into both those rolls if there's anything else. Roll 38 had nothing besides the ender, which was a 1952 from Philly. Roll 39 also had no finds besides the ender, which was another 1955 from Denver. Roll 42, a couple more older Jeffersons. First we have a 1948 from Denver and a 1958 also from Denver. Next roll, roll 43, and we have another 1957 minted in Philly. Roll 44 was the last ender of the box, and there are no finds besides the ender in that roll, and the ender was a 1957 Denver. Roll 49 had a few more older nickels. First is a pretty worn 1941 from Philly. Then we have 1958 and 1959, both from Denver. Last roll, and we're going to end the box off with a find, and this one's just another 1959 Denver. Now let's go on to the wrap-up. Nickel box has been hunted, so let's go over the finds. We ended up with 13 Esments, 2 2009s, 1 Philly, and 1 Denver, 1 foreign, that chewed up 1982 Canadian, and we also got that really thin washer in a roll, which was pretty interesting. And we also got 1 proof, even though it's beat up, still a good find, a 2003 S. Old Jeffersons, we did pretty well. We got a decent amount from the 40s and from the 50s. No better dates, really, but we did get 1 1939 Philly, which is a good find. And we got 1 silver, which is a find of the hunt. It's a 1943 Philadelphia. It's not any of the airs or anything, but still, any silver is a great find. And overall, this was a good nickel box.